Hi everybody. We're going to take a look at our Social Studies Chapter 7. So go ahead and open your books, find page 266 where our Chapter 7 begins. So the last chapter we read, we looked at all the different regions in the United States. And now we're going to specifically look at the region that we live in. We live in the Midwest, and we're right about here. We live in the state of Illinois, and you can see highlighted here on page 266 all the states that fit within the Midwestern region. And there are many things that make the Midwest unique and special. Turn to page 270, a couple pages over, and we have lesson 1 where we're going to start. We're actually going to read lesson 1 in 2 parts. And lesson 1 is called In the Heart of the Nation. And after you read this nation, you will know that the lives of people in the Midwest are affected by its landforms and bodies of water. So the way we live and the resources we have are affected by the landforms in the area and the bodies of water. There are a few things you'll find unique about living in the Midwest. And they start off talking about kind of the area of the Midwest. And the Midwest is very interesting because it's the only region that does not touch any oceans, and that makes it very special and unique. Most of the land in the Midwest is pretty flat, but we still do have some mountains, especially over here. And we have rolling hills throughout Iowa and Missouri. But overall, the land is pretty quite flat, which you probably have seen just by driving around and maybe seeing a little bit of Illinois. We have 2 important rivers to notice. And I'm going to turn the page because this map has these rivers marked. So page 277, you can see we have the Missouri River, Mississippi River, and we have the Ohio River. The Mississippi is probably one of the most famous rivers in the United States. It's the longest river, and it starts all the way up here in Minnesota, and it actually eventually empties out in the Gulf of Mexico, which is not in the Midwest. Another thing is the Midwest has 4 of the 5 Great Lakes: Lake Superior, Lake Michigan, Lake Huron, and Lake Erie. Lake Ontario is not in the Midwest, it's right over here. These lakes are connected, and they are very large. If you stand kind of on the edge of Lake Michigan, if you've ever been there, you can't see the other side. That's how big these lakes are. In this section, you will also be reading about kind of the history of this area. And thousands of years ago, this whole area was covered by glaciers that kind of carved out our land. One thing it did carve out and leave were these Great Lakes. These Great Lakes were formed by glaciers. Another important part of this section that you'll read today is the climate of the Midwest on 273. And one of the bigger ideas goes back to the idea that the Midwest has no oceans touching it. We have the Great Lakes, and that affects the kinds of weather that we have. Because we don't have any oceans, we often have summers that can get very hot and winters that are very cold. So we have a lot of extreme weather. There are many states that tend to often have blizzards, which are heavy snowstorms with powerful winds. And then our summers can have heat waves and very hot temperatures. So, and the other thing that a weather change that we have is a tornado. A tornado happens when our hot, wet air from the Midwest kind of meets from other cooler air. When hot air meets wet air, we have these big thunderstorms. And out of those big thunderstorms, we can have tornadoes that kind of are produced out of that. And so even though we don't have to worry about things like hurricanes We do have some extreme weather in this region. All right, enjoy reading pages 270 through 273.